Hello and welcome to Music Theory. This is a short video on looking at chords, Roman numerals, and items related to figured bass. So take a couple minutes to look at some stuff related to Unit 5 and the assignments as well. So one of the things that is included in this email is a PDF of your matrix sheet. This will be a big help for getting this done. It's a good way to help make some of the transitions of understanding where Roman numerals and stuff came from. So feel free to use this for a lot of the work in Unit 5, and I'll show you how to do that. In this first section, there's talking about chords. Chords are three or more notes, and for most of the time, the chords are stacked, all on lines and or all on spaces. That's how you know it's a chord. The reason I pointed that out is later on in Unit 5, you'll be doing inversions, and when the chord's inverted, they're not all the same. So that's how you know there's an inversion going on, because they're not all spaces or all lines. One or two of them are different from the rest. So something to check out. Okay, so looking at chords, chords are built on degrees or parts of a scale. In other words, you can make a chord on every note in the scale. So if I looked at, for example, the C scale, I can make a chord on every one of these notes. So technically, every scale has 7 chords. But when we're talking about chords, we're not going to use numbers like up here where you see in the matrix. We're going to use Roman numerals instead. And that's just a switch of writing it out. So here they show you a couple of chords in the C scale to give you an idea, because these are the most common or most popular chords used in songs, both in things like classical music as well as pop and country and other styles. So there's getting used to seeing those. But you'll notice here, like, this chord is called a C because the lowest note's a C. This chord is called an F because the lowest note is F. This chord is called a G because the lowest note is a G. But then if you look at your scale, the F is the 4 of the scale, so we use the Roman numeral 4. The G is the 5 of the scale, so we use the Roman numeral 5. So on that first assignment, they want you to find the 1, the 4, and the 5 chords in different keys. So we're not using C anymore. So in this first example, you see 1 sharp. So that means that the key signature is telling you that the key is not C. And so you can use your matrix and you go, okay, 1 sharp. So there's 1 sharp in the example. So that is the key of G. So when I'm trying to figure out the answers, I'm going to look at the line for G. So if I go back to the assignment, I need the 1, the 4, and the 5 of G. So I need the 1, which is G, the 4, which would be C, and the 5 would be D. So the 1, which is number 1, would be a G chord. We're going to call it G major. And then the next one, which is number 2, was the 4, and we said that was based on C. And then the 5th one, which is the 5th note of the scale, is based on D. And so I can do the same over here for this next example, and it says that there is 1 flat in the key signature. So if I go back to the matrix, 1 flat means it's the key of F. So I'm going to look at the F line to find the answers. So here they want the 1, the 4, and the 5 again. So the 1 is F, the 4 is B flat, and the 5 is C. So the same thing, this would be an F major chord. And the next one, B flat, and then C. For this next section, even though we're in bass clef, the rules still apply. I see 2 flats. So if I go over to my matrix, 2 flats is the key of B flat. So I'll look at the B flat line to do that. So I can find in B flat the 1, the 4, and the 5. So in B flat, the 1 is B flat, the 4 is E flat, and the 5 is F. And this last one, I see 2 sharps. So if I see 2 sharps in the key signature, then I must have the same over here. So 2 sharps is the key of D, so to find the answers, I can look at the line for D. So chord numbers help you to know which chord it is, but you have to know what key you're in. So you gotta look at the beginning of the section and then use your matrix so you know which chord you are taking care of. So in the next part, we're looking at intervals, the distance from one note to the next. And there's no 0 in music. So if I go from one note to the same note, we call that a 1. So when I'm counting up, I need to count up knowing that there is no such thing as a 0. Now, the easiest way that I like to look at intervals is to use that scale sheet. So let's look at the assignment. And the assignment says that I need to figure out the intervals for all of these. And it also says hint they're minor. And I'll show you what I mean by minor. So number 1, it goes from F to G flat. So if I go from F up to 1, that's a 2, but this is a G, not a G flat, so therefore it is minor. If it was a regular major, it would just be a 2. So here I can put a minor, which is lowercase, and then 2. And so let's look at number 3. 3 goes from G up to F. So if I go looking at G and I go to F, that's a 7 according to this chart, but it's supposed to be sharp, and it's not. So therefore it must be a minor 7th because it's not on the chart. If it was on the chart, then it would be major or perfect. So for example, let's look at this next section. This first one here, number 8, goes from F to E. So if I look at the chart and I go from F to E, that's a 7th, and it's on here, so therefore it must be major or perfect. So because it's a 7th, the 7th is major. So only the 4, 5s, and the 1s are perfects. All the other numbers are major. So look at, like, for example, number 10. 10 goes from G to B. So I look from G to B, and according to this chart, G to B is a 3. And because it's on the chart, it is a major 3. So number 10, I would have major 3. And then continuing on, now we start looking at 7th chords. And the reason they're called 7th note chords is because the note added above the bass is 7 notes above. That's where we get that name from. And they're usually based on the 5th of the scale. So in the key of C, the 5th of the scale is G. So a G chord with that extra added 4th note is called a dominant or 5/7, a V with a little 7 by it. So once again, the most common usually used chords are 1s and 4s and 5s. So just a little progression. But once again, we're in the key of C because there is no sharps or flats over here. But in assignment 22, you had to figure out the 5/7 in related to the key, which is the 5th note, and then that 7th note is in the key, so G, B, D, F. Now, in the next section, you're dealing with inverted chords. I think of it like a sandwich. You have a slice of bread, you have everything in between, and another slice of bread. But what if I took that bottom slice and put it on top? And now I've got the meat and stuff on the bottom, and the one slice of bread's with the other one. So that's what happened with the chords. They took the bottom note and they put it on top. We call that first inversion. When you take one note and move it up, it's first inversion. And so here's an example. Here's a normal C chord, but you notice that this C chord, they're not all lines. This one's a space, so therefore there must be an inversion going on. So you mentally have to put it back to figure out the chords that they're all lines or that they're all spaces. And there's also a second inversion, so instead of moving one note up, I move 2 notes up. So instead of just moving this bottom slice of bread, maybe I move the bottom slice of bread and the meat. Now I've got cheese and lettuce on the bottom, a couple slices of bread and meat all in the wrong order. But we call that second inversion. And then when you have 4-note chords, like we do here in this middle part, now you can see that there's a third inversion because you can move 3 notes up because there's 4 notes altogether. So we can change the order all 3 ways. So on the assignment, it tells you these are first inversions. What kind of chord is it? Is it major or minor? And now this is where I can move. You need to take a look at the chords to line them back up. So for example, on this first one, this top note should be on the bottom because they're in first position. And so if I move the C down, I have C, E, and G. So if I look at your rubric, I can go C, E, and G. And it's here, so therefore it's a major chord. That's how I remember these. So if we look at number 3, for example, I have F, A, and D, and it's in first inversion, so this D shouldn't be up there, it should be down below. So if I put the D down below, then it's D, F, and A. And if I look at your rubric, D, F sharp, and A, the F's not sharp, so therefore something's not right. So that makes it a minor chord if you don't see it on your rubric. So the answer number 1 is a major chord, and answer number 3 is a minor chord. And if you want to put the names of them, you can totally do that. But beyond that, we're totally fine. And then 5, 6, and 7, same idea, except for they're in second position. So instead of one note being moved, it's 2. So the easiest way to fix that is to take the bottom note and put it on top, or take both notes and move them down. So for example, number 6, I have C, F, and A, or excuse me, I have E, A, and C. So if I move the E on top, I have A, C, E. And for number 6, if I look at A, C, oh, it's not sharp, E, so therefore it must be a minor chord. And then for 8 through 13, these are various inversions. And they're telling you the inversion. So like, hey, here's a D7, but the D's up in the air. So what inversion is this? So then you can look back and see if it's first, second, or third. But it's telling you the chord. So it's A7, so it should be A, C, E, G, but the A is not on the bottom. So what inversion is it? Hope this can help with understanding the Roman numerals and the inversions. Later on when you do inversions, you put numbers next to the Roman numerals, so if you have questions about that, feel free to ask. There's a key. First inversion is a certain set of numbers, second inversion, third inversion, they all have their own numbers. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.